Yes, I do.
Oh, good. All right.
I learned from the best.
All right, we're recording. So,
Yes.
what we really want our audience, our listeners to know is that we've discovered, David and I, my partner Dave Waltzer's on the line with us, and we've discovered the secrets to offshore cash flow. And we've also, in realizing our dreams offshore, we've also made a lot of costly mistakes. And we're going to share with you today the costly mistakes we made, going into a new country, a foreign country, getting ourselves established there. We stepped in some potholes. I mean, we admit it. We lost some money on some things. And you know what? We want our clients, our friends, to not lose any money on anything, and it's important that you learn from our mistakes as much as how to realize your dreams in an offshore haven. And we went to Panama, frankly, and Panama is an amazing country. It's growing faster than China and India combined. It's incredible. It's been doing that for several years now. And actually for a long time, it's been growing faster than China and India, independently, separately. So we've been looking for best-in-class cash flow opportunities offshore. And so I'm going to introduce my partner, Dave Waltzer. He's actually a physician by training, but he really enjoys being an entrepreneur, and he's very, very good at it. So he's actually sold his practices in order to come on board together with me, and we're partners in a company that generates or helps others to generate cash flow in offshore jurisdictions. So with that, I'm going to introduce my partner, Dr. David Waltzer. David?
Why, thank you so much, Brian.
You're welcome.
Yes, I practiced, a physician practiced here in the Northeast of the United States in Connecticut, Brian, as you know, for about 18 years. And Brian and I have been friends and associates and business partners for over 2 decades. And so it's been a great relationship. Brian, early on in my career, was somebody I sought out back in the United States as somebody to help me build cash flow. And so he was my coach initially, and it's an honor and a privilege to be partnered with Brian here. And Brian's right. We landed in Panama. I ended my career, moved on to a second career about 7 or 8 years ago, and was very passionate about creating cash flows, multiple streams of income, and ended up in Panama about 7.5 years ago. And one of my first calls, probably the first call when my eyes really got wide open about what opportunities Panama held in store, was back to my coach and my friend and my partner, Brian Conslow. And I'll never forget the conversation. Brian, I don't think you'll ever forget the conversation either. It was actually quite comical. And maybe you just want to share with people how that conversation went.
Yeah, it was really funny. It was one of those aha moments, but it was also a ha-ha moment, and I'll share with you the funniness side of it as well as the discovery. So I was living in Florida, and David calls me, and David I've known for 20 some odd years. I mean, we've been in businesses together. I've been his coach over the years on a cash flow basis, teaching him how to generate cash flows for himself. And when he called me, David's a guy of high integrity, and a lot of people call me. And, you only have time to sort through who you're going to return the call to and which opportunities make sense, et cetera, et cetera. So, sorting through everything. I mean, when David called, I figured, all right, this has got to be good because it's David. And so, I gave him my ear and I listened, and he's telling me about Panama City, and I'm listening and I'm thinking to myself, there's something wrong with David because Panama City's in Florida, and Panama City in Florida is, it's okay. I shouldn't insult anybody, but, it's not exactly the garden spot of America. It's mostly 2-story motels and, kids go there for spring break. So anyway, there's no skyscrapers and there's no, cranes and bustling city or anything. So he's on the phone with me and he's telling me about the cranes and the skyscrapers in Panama City. And I'm thinking, where are you? And he says to me something about the canal, and I realized, aha, you're in Panama City, Central America. Why would I ever think he was out of the country? I mean, he calls me from Connecticut. He's in Connecticut. So anyway, so I got his call. I was living in Florida at the time, and he was in Panama, so excited. So I fly off to Panama, and the plane lands. It's about 13 miles to the airport outside of Panama City. So the plane is coming in for its landing, and it turns. And as it turns, I'm sitting by the window, I'm looking out the window, and I see the city, and my God, I mean, I don't know, if you've been to Panama, you know, for the first time, you look out that window and you go, oh my God, where'd this come from? It's an unbelievable city. It looks like a mini Singapore. I mean, it's incredible. I had been to Central America many times, been to Costa Rica, been to other countries, just never seen anything like that. I mean, a modern city coming out of the ground. You can see these skyscrapers, 80 stories tall in Panama City. Just phenomenal. So, you know, you can see the modernization. You could really get a chance to experience the vibration, the rumble, so to speak, of the economy. And so I land, and David picks me up, and, you know, great to see him. We travel around really looking for the best-in-class opportunities for cash flow. First, we were looking for ourselves because, quite frankly, we don't introduce our clients to anything unless we first try it. You know, we want to taste it. We want to see how it works. We made some mistakes. I'll tell you, we lost some money. We did some stupid things. But you know what? That's the school of hard knocks is probably the best school. But that's the school you want us to go to. That is definitely the learning curve. So. Right. That's the learning curve. That's the school you want us to go to. That's not the school you want to go to. You want to learn from our mistakes. And we're in the business of teaching you from our mistakes. I mean, it's important to know. So we got on the ground, and we were looking for best-in-class opportunities and, you know, and something we could put ourselves into before we really introduce it to our clients. And so this happened 6-7 years ago in Panama. And there's a lot of good, the bad, and the ugly. And I really want to pass the baton back to my partner, David, and have him share with you about some of the pitfalls. He passes the baton to his partner to talk about the ugly. Thank you very much, Brian. I won't take that personally, though. Thank you. So let me talk a little bit about the ugly. Anyway, so some of the ugly. We looked all over Panama because this is an economy that's growing in double digits, and there's opportunity everywhere. You know, you could open up something on a street corner and do very, very well when an economy is expanding this way in all different dimensions. And so we searched and we looked. And we looked at different developments in real estate and so forth, and we looked at concrete, and we looked at, you know, all these different facets of what it takes to expand an infrastructure in a country that's just reinventing itself and going from a third world country to a first world country is exactly what's happening. And so, you know, we looked at some properties, as Brian said, for ourselves and looking at beachfront real estate. And lo and behold, we find out after the fact that there are things known as ROP, rights of possession, totally different titling laws in Panama than there are in the United States. Right. And we learned the hard way, the school of hard knocks that, you know, you've got to really dig down and you know, work with experts in the field, and we really developed a team of experts that we now work with on everything in Panama, and so you know, we cut our teeth along the way, and we don't make those mistakes anymore. It's been years. And for the last several years, we've actually done incredibly well for ourselves and for our clients. So there's things like right of possessions. There's things that you have to deal with different developers and checking their backgrounds and making sure that they've got experience in building these types of projects and all different types of aspects. But Brian, maybe you want to share and expand upon that a little bit. Yeah, well, you know what I want to say is blah blah blah. Yeah, you know what I want to say is there's a lot of reasons why people are internationalizing now, and I think, you know, really we were ahead of the curve. We were talking about 6-7 years ago before, you know, the mess in the economy of the world really hit. For sure. This before there was a recession. This is while everything was good, everything was great, and then the recession hit. We were already in Panama. So, you know, Panama never had the recession. Panama was growing 7% a year during the recession. So, you know, it was big even back then. And so we were in Panama at the right time, right place, and it's still the right time, right place because the expansion of the Panama Canal hasn't even opened yet. And when the expansion opens up, the capacity of the canal is going to more than double. You're talking about these massive ships that'll be able to go through the Panama Canal 300 feet wide. Right now the canal is only 100 feet wide. So you're talking about cargo, you know, piled high on these huge football field long ships. Tripling the amount of cargo going through, tripling the income coming in just from the canal. Yeah, it's a big deal. It's an enormous deal. Yeah, but you know what, David, before we even get into all the great things about Panama, I think we should talk about internationalizing funds and really some of the good, the bad, the ugly, because, you know, we know inflation's on the horizon. I mean, come on. Unless you were born last night, you know that inflation's coming. And when it comes, it's going to come roaring along, and it's not going to be pretty. Even now, even though the government says, oh, there's no inflation, or inflation's only 1 or 2%, well, when's the last time you walked into a department store? When's the last time you went to a restaurant? I mean, do you think the menu items are the same price today as they were 2 or 3 years ago? Food prices have gone up. Clothing prices have gone up. Gasoline has escalated. I mean, come on. There's definitely inflation.
Taxes.
All they did was they took
taxes on top of it.
Right.
Taxes on top of inflation.
Right. So what they do? So the government takes out all the things that could possibly account for inflation out of the CPI and out of the indexes and says, well, this is what we're going to use as the index. Well, if you don't use anything in the index that has inflation, of course, they'll show no inflation. So, but the fact of the matter is, as you know and I know, there's tons of inflation. That's like saying there's, unemployment's 8% or 9%. Unemployment's not 8 or 9%. What about all the people that are unemployed, that aren't on unemployment? What about all the people that you know and I know that are executives or managers or, and they're working at, some fast food place or working at a whatever job. They're underemployed.
What the economists like to call underemployment.
Yeah, they're underemployed. They're working for half the salary. So sure, they're employed at half. Okay.
Exactly.
Right. All right. So, you have some real serious issues. And these issues are not just in the United States. I mean, we just don't have political unrest. And there is political unrest. We just don't have gridlock and economic uncertainty. Those things are not unique to the United States, not indigenous to the United States. Let's look at what's happened in Greece, what's happened in Spain. I mean, you got 20-some-odd% unemployment. Italy is not in much better shape than Spain. Greece, we've already said, is a mess. And look at what's going on politically. You have Syria is a mess. You have Egypt was a mess and probably still partially is a mess. They're coming out of it. But, you've got countries that have social unrest. And these are big issues. Let me tell you, when you have social unrest in a country, the government has problems. Those are real problems. Go back to the United States. You've got the Patriot Act. Well, you and I look at the Patriot Act. You say, well, we're really not affected by it because it's, it's about those people from outside the United States. Well, yeah, but people from outside the United States spend a lot of money in the United States. I'm going to give you an example.
That's right.
This is something you probably don't think about very much. I'll give you an example. David, we talk about these people from outside the United States on the Patriot Act, but you know what's happening in Latin America? People aren't even bothering to get a visa to go to the United States. Why? Because they have gambling in Panama. They don't need to go to Las Vegas. They have shopping. They have 5 new malls. They have the biggest retail mall in Latin America is in Panama City. The biggest wholesale outlet mall is in Panama City. They have droves of people, double digits every year of growth of people flying to Panama City to shop rather than flying to the United States. That's a phenomenon. That's a major trend. This is not a little thing. This is double-digit growth.
In Panama, Brian, the government promotes shopping tourism.
Yeah.
And they spend millions of dollars a year on promoting shopping tourism. They built 5 malls in Panama City. People fly in. You really got to realize people fly in from all over the world with empty suitcases, or they buy empty suitcases in Panama and fill them up with goods that they can't get anywhere else in the world.
Yeah.
Panama City is only 1.2 million people. To have 5 massive malls like you would have in the United States, the reason is because people are coming in for shopping tourism. Now, when they come in for shopping tourism, they spend their tourism dollars. They frequent the hospitality. They frequent the restaurants. They frequent the hotels. And they stay for extended periods of time. And that's just one facet of the tourism market. The segment, Brian, if I can interject, that I'm absolutely gaga over, that feeds the economy in Panama City. Again, let me kind of give people the scope. Panama, the entire country of Panama is the size of my state here, Connecticut. About 3.2 million people. And about 1.2 million live in Panama City. Now, imagine this. Imagine that 500 multinational corporations from around the world decided to relocate to my little state of Connecticut. What would that do to the economy? And that's exactly what's happening in Panama. Just one facet. The government passed a law called Law 41. Law 41 allows multinational corporations to relocate their Latin American headquarters to Panama City. So what happened in 2011, over 60 multinationals relocated. By the end of this year in 2012, there'll be over 200. And by 2014, over 500 multinational corporations. Why is that such a big deal? Well, people fly in from all over the world to do business with the multinational corporations. They don't stay for one day. They stay for days and weeks at a time. to do business. Imagine what that does to the amount of tourism coming into the country, to the restaurants, to the airports, to the hotels, and so forth. So it's one of the things that we looked at is those types of trends moving forward.
Right.
Where are the cash flow opportunities going to be, and what segment of the market over the long time where you're going to have long-term and steady cash flow growth? And so we kind of eyed in on the statistics and looked at the hospitality industry and have made some amazing best-in-class discoveries in that area. So, but there's a lot of other things that are feeding the tourism market, Brian. There's medical tourism. Maybe you want to speak to that.
Well, sure. But you know what, Dave? You're the physician. I think medical tourism is your...
I'm a physician. I'll speak to that. Medical tourism is an incredible thing in Panama. You've got Johns Hopkins University Hospital in Panama City. You've only got 3 in the world. You've got one in Baltimore in the United States. You've got one in Singapore, and you've got one in Panama City. Why is that so important? Well, you've got U.S. trained doctors there who perform medical procedures for, 25 and 30 cents on the dollar. So what happens? You have people from all over the world who fly in to have procedures done, and they stay for medical vacations. So what does that do to the economy? They don't just fly in for a one-day surgery and fly back out. They stay for their whole recovery process because it's cheaper to come on a medical vacation for a month than it is to just fly back home. So they stay for weeks at a time to go through their physical therapy and their follow-up visits and so forth. And they're a big boon to the local economy, for the hospitality, for the hotels, for the restaurants, for the economy in general. And so these different facets of what's happening are all promoted by the government. And the government in Panama is very, very savvy to that. And things are booming. Things are absolutely booming in Panama. You've got a discovery, and it blows my mind. You've got an initial discovery of oil in Panama of $15 billion in an initial discovery. Now, all of a sudden, you've got an entire new industry overlapping, ready to explode in Panama, on top of all these other things that already have a double-digit GDP growth in Panama. If I sound excited, I'm very, very excited. It's the number one expatriation place for North Americans. Yeah. More people who leave the United States and Canada and North America move to Panama. They move to Panama. They relocate. Yeah. People speak English, people speak Spanish, and it's becoming a first world nation, and it is the place to escape to. It's really it's part of people's dreams, and it's part of our dreams. And
it is. David, let me address 2 points. There's 2 points I want to address. Actually, maybe 3. Maybe I'll filibuster this with 3.
You can speak to 4 if you'd like.
Yeah, all right, here we go. Well, first thing I want to say, I started talking about Las Vegas before. That's a big deal because you got the Latin Americans, talking about all of South America, all of Central America. You've got all these people, that like to gamble, that want to come to Las Vegas, but now they've got to wait weeks to get a visa in many cases. They don't even want to hassle anymore. In Panama City, you've got 36 licenses for gambling. You got casinos, you got Trump there now, you got other casinos there, you got Wyndham, you got Sheraton, you got a Marriott, you got et cetera, et cetera. So the big players are there, and more are coming, which is the most important thing, because remember, Panama's this little itsy-bitsy country where you can get a meal for $4 or $5, but yet, when you look at what the cash flows are, you look at the major cash flows, and that's our business. I have to tell you, happiness is a positive cash flow, and I live by that motto. I'll tell you, it's very nice to have assets. Many of you may have assets, we've all been there, done that, and it's great to have assets, but when they're not producing cash flow, good luck. You've got to have commercial cash flow coming in month after month after month, hassle-free, so you could live your life without having to manage something. Lots of us like to say, well, I'll go buy foreclosures. Well, yeah, you go buy foreclosures, and you know what you're going to get? One giant headache. Here's the foreclosure game, just in case you haven't read between the lines. That's the way it works. You go and you buy a group of foreclosures because you're not going to make money on one. In order to make any kind of money to live off of, you have to buy several. So you buy several, or you buy a building full of them. Great. All right, here's what happens. You buy the foreclosure, now you have to pay the mortgage. The mortgage is going to come whether you're rented and occupied or not. So, of course, the mortgage starts immediately, the taxes start immediately, the insurance starts immediately, the management starts immediately, and what else starts immediately is you. You have to go in and you have to hire contractors or a GC. You've got to get the contractors the permits. You've got to wait to get the permits because none of that happens so easily. If you've all been there, done that, you know how that works. Now,
Sure.
Now you get your permits, you get your construction. Anything that can go wrong does go wrong. Murphy's Law applies 100%. So months later, probably months beyond whatever you figured, you're finally ready to have a tenant move in, whether it's commercial or it's residential. You're finally ready to have a tenant move in, and now what? Now you need a lawyer. They get a lawyer, you need a lawyer. You know the way that works. It escalates. Maybe they don't even sign the lease. After you make the lease, after you negotiate the lease, finally you get another tenant. They're going to move in. They move in. Their credit's too poor, or maybe they finally move in. They have good credit. Congratulations. But you finally get somebody in at 6 months later, 8 months later, whatever it is, and now you're first generating your first dollar of cash flow. You're taxed to death. You have insurance to death. I don't know. I look at Panama. Hey, you don't have a lot of these problems. First of all, you don't have hurricanes in Panama. There's never been a hurricane in the recorded history of Panama. You don't have any of these other, natural disasters in Panama. Panama is a gem. It is safe. It's clean. The people are loving. They're bilingual. Labor is inexpensive. Food is inexpensive. Clothing is inexpensive. They're not taxed to death. You know why all these international corporations move into Panama? David was talking about this law 41. International corporations are moving to Panama not only because of the labor laws and the way they can operate and be effective throughout Latin America, but these Latin American headquarters for Johnson & Johnson, Procter & Gamble, FedEx, and you've got Dell, Caterpillar, and Hewlett-Packard, and Dell is there, and all these companies have a presence there. Why do they have a presence? Or their Latin American headquarters there? And more moving in every day is because they pay no taxes. No taxes. Well, that's a pretty darn good incentive. Now, here's the way it works. They pay tax on the income they make in Panama, but the income they make outside of Panama, remember Panama is this little itsy-bitsy country of 3.4 million people, 1.2 or so living in the city. So, that's a pretty darn good incentive, I think, to have their Latin American headquarters in Panama or Panama City. So what happens is they move to Panama City, they generate all this capital, they have all this excess capital. Now remember, the foreigners that move in, when the headquarters move in, you've got 100, 200, 300, or 1,000 or two employees from other parts of the world that move in. So this is foreign dollars pumping up the Panamanian economy. Foreign dollars making the economy grow. That's why you have Cartier opening up. That's why you have Lowe's and Rolex and Tiffany, and these companies are now in Panama City. I mean, you didn't see these countries, these companies there 5 years ago. You see BMWs on the road now, every 15th or 20th car, Mercedes-Benz, BMW, Audi. You even see a Ferrari dealership in Panama. You didn't have that years ago. So the wave is happening with you or without you. You've got to get on that wave or at least consider it, because the Panamanian government is smart. It's run by business people. They know what they're doing. They're very clever, very smart, very fast. They announce a new subway system in the city. Voila, it's going in. You see the drill underground going through. They're closing off streets and putting a subway in. They're massively quick, and they mobilize. And this is very, very important. I'll give you an example. Go back to my Las Vegas example, because I think this is key. You've got the medical tourism, Dave. You talked about it. You've got the business tourism. You talked about that, Dave, too. But you know what's really there? I like talking about this, because when you talk about the Panamanian government smarts and you talk about the difficulty in getting the visa because of the Patriot Act, which is really the un-Patriot Act. So now, or I think it is anyway, you've got these people in Latin America that can't get into the States or don't want to hassle getting into the States. So you have some pretty smart people operating against that. What do? Panama decides they're going to build a convention center to compete with Las Vegas. Why? Because now you have all the foreigners coming in with all this money. They have to stay somewhere, they have to eat somewhere, they have to go somewhere. They're going to spend a fortune. In fact, you even have a new Smithsonian opening up in Panama City. So these are all reasons why Panama City is growing. But most importantly, we came to Panama City to look for cash flow. That is the name of the game. You're not going to maybe want to live in Panama City. That's okay. Maybe you want to live somewhere else in the world. Maybe it's the United States. But you might want to have some offshore sheltered income. And you know what? You may want to look at where you put it. And I think Panama is a great place to go. You have to evaluate for yourself. But we can give you a lot of the ideas and the tips and, of course, the things we did wrong, as well as the things that we recommend to our clients that we do right. But I think most importantly, Dave, for everyone to know is that we looked at we looked at cash flow opportunities that you couldn't even imagine. I'll give you an example. We looked at an opportunity where tenders go out to the ships in the ocean, because you have all these ships waiting 2-3 days to go through the Panama Canal. They run out of supplies. They run out of ketchup. They run out of toilet paper. They run out of salt and pepper. I mean, they run out of supplies. They run out of small things that, maybe they don't have enough stock of when they go into the ocean for months and months at a time. So we looked at maybe getting into the tender business of running, equipment out to or supplies out to the boats. That didn't make sense. From a cash flow, again, from a hands-off cash flow basis, how can you live your life hands off from the things you purchase? That's what we want to do and look at. That's what we deliver to our clients. That's the key difference, is to find best in class cash flow opportunities for ourselves and for our clients.
That are passive.
We do it first. Yeah, go, Dave. Go.
That are passive, Brian. It's so nice to see your passion here. Yeah, but it's all about creating multiple passive streams of income.
That's correct.
Things that you can sit on the beach, you can be in the hammock, you can be relaxing and get an incredible opportunity, an incredible cash flow opportunity out of. And we have identified those. Panama is one of the few places I've ever heard of that has a tax exoneration on certain things and has no real estate tax associated with certain things. So we've really learned a tremendous amount over the last 7 years, and we have identified best in class passive cash flow opportunities that we've taken advantage of for ourselves and for our clients, and we're ready to share that information with a lot of folks so that they can glean the benefit of it also. And so I may not be as animated and passionate as Brian, but Panama is certainly my escape place on planet Earth for sure.
Yeah.
So
it's a dream come true.
Brian, it is our dream come true. Where do we head from here?
Well, I just want to say this. David and I, we're not tax consultants. We don't give tax advice. We're not lawyers. We don't give legal advice. You need a lawyer. You need a tax person. We can introduce you to people on the ground, educated in the States. They're Panamanian. They know the laws in both places. They will advise you on those areas. But when it comes to cash flow, you're looking for a positive cash flow. We spend our lives, literally. I mean, we're 24/7 spending our lives looking at opportunities, sorting them out, and finding the maximum cash flows for ourselves and for our clients. That's the key thing that we do, is build wealth in that manner. That's our area of, let's say, specialty. I think we've talked about, we didn't talk about, David, and I think we should just touch upon it for a moment, is the cruise ships. Because those are now, again, people with the visas, it's a hassle to even go on a cruise ship in the States now for a lot of people from other countries. Sure. So you have more and more ports opening up. People need to stay a couple of days before the trip, a couple of days after the trip. They spend gobs of money in Panama City doing this, and you see a lot more ports in the South Shore, North Shore of Panama opening up. But the key factor here, just look at GDP of Panama. I just want to really make it clear, because it's not just that we find the cash flow opportunities. We've identified Panama for a number of reasons. We're not in Honduras. We're not in Mexico. We're not in Costa Rica. We're not in a lot of places for a lot of good reasons. We've sorted through these very, very carefully, and we've drilled down granular to make sure we're in the right place in the right time. And let me just share something with you. I think statistically, it's a very important statistic. Those of you that like calculators, numbers, et cetera, or into the whole economics of things from a broad stroke, let's look at the Panama Canal, which is the major engine of Panama. Obviously, they have other engines. They're a diversified country, much like the United States. But let's just talk about the engine called the Panama Canal. That thing is an ATM machine in the ocean, going 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, never take a holiday, never take a break, never close down. They have ships waiting days to go through the Panama Canal for the pleasure of paying hundreds of thousands of dollars in duties and tariffs. So here's the thing to understand about it. The Panama Canal, when it expands, it's going to open up in 2014 with a big expansion, will generate somewhere around $2 billion in excess cash flow. $2 billion. Now, you might say, well, that's not a lot of money for the United States or some other countries. Well, that's true, but it's a lot of money for Panama. And it's a lot of money for Panama because, again, you got 3.4 million people in total in Panama. So let's do some simple math. Divide 2 billion by 3.4 million. See what you get. That number is why Panama can afford to build subways, afford to build hospitals, afford to build a better way of living for people, afford to give free English classes to people, free Spanish classes to people. They can afford to build highways and hospitals and schools and better electric grids and plants and all these other things that Panama is doing with the money. It's really quite incredible. There's over 190 some odd banks by last count that I heard in Panama City. Why would they be there if it wasn't stable? And why would people put all this money there if it wasn't one of the most stable political environments. By the way, protected by the United States. Panama has no army, no military. It's protected by the United States. How do you like that? A pretty good deal.
Well, one of the few places that we as Americans can go and feel safe.
Yeah,
and
pretty good deal.
People actually love Americans there because we've had a very positive history with Panama over the last 100 years. So, but the hospitality segment is really the hot potato, and it's got the legs for the longevity. And we have been involved with and identified a particular project that we're going to be sharing with people in the hospitality segment. And in our next recorded video that we're going to be providing to you, we are going to have questions that have been submitted to us by the head of Escape Artist Real Estate, and we'll be answering those questions about one of the best in class opportunities that we have found here in our 7 years. And we'll answer those questions for you. It is a passive commercial cash flow opportunity that is extraordinary. And we're very excited to share that with you and excited to get into the questions and answers submitted by these experts.
Yeah, you know what? I want to say one thing in closing, David, to our listening audience. You know, I have to say something. I remember when I first came to Panama, my friends back home in the United States, they thought I was nuts. My family thought I was crazy, but I'm not sure that's anything new, but they thought I was crazier than ever going to Panama. Panama, why would you go to Panama? You know, that whole scene. Now, of course, it's popular. Trump is there. It's in the news. People are being interviewed about Panama. All of a sudden, the secret's out. So now, all of a sudden, I was a visionary. But you know what? Our listening audience, I just want to say this. When you first tell your friends and your family members you're interested in buying something in Panama, you're interested in, having offshore cash flow, or you're interested in internationalizing your funds, or you're interested in securing your money overseas, or you're interested in getting some of your money out of your country for whatever reasons you want to diversify, people at first, the first response you're going to get is, you're crazy. Why are you crazy? People look at it like something's wrong, but you know what? You're a visionary. I remember, reading about Disney. Disney was sitting on a park bench, explaining to someone about, his vision for a theme park. And, you have to remember back then, years ago, this is a long time ago, Disney was sitting on a park bench, and the only parks were amusement parks. I mean, that was it. I mean, when it came to rides or it came to anything even close, the closest thing was an amusement park, a carousel and one of these little mousy roller coasters, and maybe a little thing for the kiddies to go around in, a little elephant that they fly around in. That's it. There was nothing else. So Disney had this dream. He had this vision, and people thought he was nuts. People thought he was crazy. In fact, a lot of banks did not want to bet on Disney. A lot of banks did not want to get behind him. Investors didn't want to get behind him. And in fact, you see what Disney is today. They're one of the most phenomenal countries in the world. The most brilliant and imaginary company that generates some phenomenal things for our enjoyment and our pleasure and our entertainment. So entertainment mega complex, so to speak. So that came out of an idea. That came out of a vision. And you have a vision. So when those friends of yours and those family members of yours look at you a little funny or cross-eyed, you're doing what? You're internationalizing your funds. You're going to Panama. You're putting your money overseas. All I can tell you is this: you're a visionary. And someday people are going to look at you and say, "Oh, my dad or my uncle or my mom they were ahead of the curve." And let me tell you something.
They were definitely ahead of the curve.
You look at Panama, you're ahead of the curve. I mean, it's amazing what's happening there, and probably your country is not doing well. And if you're watching this video, and Panama is and has been and is going to keep on chugging along for a long time. It is amazing what's going on there. So with that, what Dave said, we do have these interview questions coming up from the head of Escape Artist Real Estate. We invite you to come on to the next video and listen to what we're all about and what we're doing there and how we found our dream. And we want to share it with you, and we'll do that on this next video. So stay tuned and join us, please. This is Brian and my partner, David. David, any last comments?
That's it, Brian. I'm looking forward to sharing the questions and answers with everybody on the next video. Thanks so much.
Absolutely. Thank you.